All right, everybody. Hello. We'll just wait a couple seconds for everybody to topple on in. Good to have everybody here today. All right, guys. Well, as you all are starting to come on in today, I just want to say hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where in the world it is you're tuning in from today. For those of you who may not know who I am, I'm Amanda Toney. I'm the Managing Director of Stage 32, and I wanted to welcome you to a very, very special webcast today. Today, we are going to be going over how to work the AFM 2025, how to navigate the huge American film market. For those of you who may not know, Stage 32 has been a proud education partner of the AFM for over 10 years. And as one of the largest and most successful markets in the world, we are super proud to have a great relationship with them. And we are always very proud of all of the innovation that they do every single year. So today we're going to have an expert panelist, which I'm going to panel here, which I'm going to get to in just a second. But before we dive into that, one thing that I do want to let everybody know is that at the end of the webcast today, we are going to be taking questions. So I've been working really hard with RB and Jean and Clay, and they have some great presentations set for you today. But if you feel like you missed something, don't worry. At the end, we're going to be able to get to those questions. So the way that we're going to be doing that is in several different ways. We do have an official lounge link today. So if you are a Stage 32 member, go ahead and click on that link. And that is our official lounge link for today. So I would recommend for you to head on to the lounge link. And if you could do me a favor and just type in, where are you tuning in from today? So what city or what country, what state, if you could let me know where you're coming in from. The reason why we like to have people get set on the lounge link is because after the webcast, you guys can all network with each other. So when you get to AFM, you will have a great community that you can work with once you get on site. For those of you who are not Stage 32 members, don't worry. You also can be answering questions or asking questions. So you can do that by typing into the Q&A form or the chat box on Zoom, and I will be able to see that. So if you guys want to type in either what city you're tuning in from, what country you're tuning in from, that'd be a great way for me to know that you guys know how to use the Q&A feature. All right, perfect. So as I mentioned, we do have a killer lineup. Oh, cool. I'm seeing everybody. We've got people from all over LA, Santa Monica, New York City, Spain, Germany. This is awesome. Good to see everybody. Hawaii, Los Angeles.
Hawaii, yeah.
Yeah, this is great. We just did a program actually in Hawaii, Mexico City. Amazing. All right, guys. So as I mentioned, we have a stellar panel here for you today. We have Jean Pruitt, who is the CEO of IFTA and kind of the mastermind of AFM here. We have Clay Epstein, who's with Film Mode Entertainment, and he is, I think it's former chair, right, of IFTA AFM.
Former,
Former. It means just less work, right, Clay? Right?
yeah.
Just means less work.
I don't know. I'll let Gene answer that, but
And we have our very own Richard R.B. Botto. You guys all know him as RB. He is our founder and CEO of Stage 32, also a producer and an actor and a WGA screenwriter. So we have the power panel here for you guys today. And just so you guys know, each person's going to be doing a presentation about 10-15 minutes. And then at the end, we're going to be opening up for Q&A. And if you have to leave, don't worry. You will get the recording. The recording will be available in your Stage 32 account within the next 24 hours. And if you don't have a Stage 32 profile, AFM is also going to be sending out this recording for you as well. So with that, you guys ready? How's everybody feeling?
excellent.
Excellent.
Okay,
Well, a little harried. The AFM is coming.
Excited.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this is the dream team here, you guys. And so I'm going to, and you guys, it looks like we have people literally from all over the world, Brazil, India, Germany, Spain. Yeah, you know, we have such a great international audience. So this is fantastic. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here. And Jean, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Amanda. As Amanda's mentioned, I'm the CEO of the Independent Film and Television Alliance, which produces the American film market. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the market or with IFTA or with the history, IFTA is a trade association for companies in the independent sales, production, and distribution business. And for purposes of our membership, independent means what it sounds like it means. They are not in the midst of large studio conglomerates. They are putting together their projects one by one. They have no distribution networks of their own. They go to market to find distributors, country by country, platform by platform. The AFM was created by this organization, which was formed by a group of 10 sales agents in 1980, who felt that restricting the market, whereby licensing deals could be done with distributors to can only, which was at that point the only major market in the world, was a mistake, that the US independent industry could and should become the authors of their own market. The AFM launched for the first time in 1981, so this will be its 46th edition. It is, as Amanda said, one of the two large markets in the world, but it's also distinguished by being the only market in the film industry that is actually run by the film companies themselves. And that's been an important issue throughout the years, because IFTA goes to the market supported only by the industry itself. There is no government funding. There is no government influence. It is completely about putting together an event that serves the business of the independent sector. And in the initial years, it was completely about being a market. The issue was bringing together the independent companies from around the world in a single location and attracting the distributors or buyers from around the world to actually negotiate distribution arrangements. In some cases, for films that had already been made and didn't yet have worldwide rights out being exploited. And in many other cases, for films that not only hadn't been made, there were, in the early days, it was clear people were just selling poster art, that we could all recite people we know who went out and just said, oh, in 2 days it's the AFM, I'm going to make a series of posters on disasters. I'm going to make one on tornadoes. I'm going to make one on this. I'm going to make one on that. While a lot of that enthusiasm and ability to sell almost anything to the rest of the world has diminished over time, it is still largely a market that focuses on projects at all stages of development. From an apple in somebody's eye, where all you're really trying to do at the market is to talk to colleagues to see if it is an idea that holds water, to films that have been completed, where some rights have already been sold to certain territories or certain distributors, but you now need to actually show it, or show at least footage, to buyers from other territories who have been unconvinced by your sales pattern that the film will work for them. So with that in mind, I think we, as we organize the market, have always put a lot of attention on how do we inspire the broadest participation in the buying and selling world. About a decade ago, about the time we first met Amanda and Rich, however, we realized that the marketplace was getting tougher. It was abundantly clear that the art of selling your idea to a company that could make the film and then go on to exploit it was becoming more and more significant. It was no longer a case of everybody's looking for anything and anything made could immediately find a market somewhere with someone because the world was so hungry for content. Now it really is a complete competition at every stage of that pipeline. And in order to serve the pipeline, we as an organization and as a market had to build out what is now the other half of the market, which are services and experiences that are useful for people who are emerging producers, who are writers, who are engaged in service sectors that depend on that piece of the marketplace being healthy and flourishing. And that was about the time that we ran into Stage 32, who has been our partner throughout the last 10 years as we've really made an effort to come up with experiences that are useful for many of you who are listening here. And in a few minutes, Clay will talk at much greater length about the market side of it and what it means and how you go about approaching people who are at the market with developed projects and frankly with expertise that you are interested in tapping into. For the rest of it, I think what many of you will want to take a look at is what is now an incredibly robust portfolio of seminars and workshops that range from the practical. We will return this year to having an incredibly interesting panel involving the Producers Guild and SAG, talking about how to work with SAG. How do you move your project to get authority to actually hire talent and to move forward in very practical terms, up through what are going to be stellar sessions on artificial intelligence, what it means for the production community, what the big unanswered questions are at the moment, how it's already being used, what you should be thinking about going into any project that involves AI in terms of, can it work for what you want it to do? Can you protect your rights if you have embodied AI creations in your work? What do you need to do to make sure you have obtained full authorization? In between, Clay always does a panel on how you work with a sales agent, how you actually get somebody on your team, and why you need somebody who actually knows the buyers you're trying to reach. We have panels on marketing. There will be other panels on specific issues with financing today. And then separately, there is a whole series of panels that will be put together by the film commissions. Every year we have about 40 film commissions from all over the world present, many of them with stands, looking to explain what sort of incentives they have, what kinds of projects are easily made within their territories. Many of those commissions will themselves do workshops on how to work with their incentives and how best to navigate their very different governments. And when I look at the list of who's coming, it's individual counties in Arizona up through the national government of Poland and everything in between, where there's an actual will to attract production from around the world and generally resources to back that, to help you make your films. I think Amanda and Rich had also asked me to demystify what this place looks like as you go through the door. As many of you know, we spent 30 years in Santa Monica. And over the last couple of years, we've done the market 1 year in another hotel in Santa Monica. Last year, we were in Las Vegas. This year, we have quite happily come home to Los Angeles. We're able to secure the Fairmont Century Plaza as the venue. It is a lovely hotel, recently having gone through 4 or 5 years of reno. When you walk in the door, depending on the day and the hour, you will either see a lovely lobby or you'll see a lot of activity that you may associate with Comic-Con. We have everything and nothing at any point in time. There will be people who are there simply to attract attention. There will be agents who have come over from through an underground tunnel from CAA, waiting in the lobby to meet people. There will be people like Clay who happened to be walking through and got buttonholed by someone. Ignore all that in the first instance. You may want to go to the info desk as you walk through, but the important things to know are to your left will be a bank of elevators. Those elevators go upstairs where every hotel room on 6 of the floors has been converted into an office for a sales company. Beds taken out, office furniture brought in. That is kind of hallowed ground. People up there, and Clay will hit you harder with this than I will. People up there are there to make sure their business survives. This is not, it's a good time because people are using a skill set they're good at. It's not a good time because this is where they will find out whether or not their best concepts and their best shot at the marketplace is going to work or not. It's like primitive international crowd fundraising. You put something out there, you hope people have made appointments to come talk to you about it. If it fails, that project is likely dead. So you approach the upstairs following the guidelines that Clay will talk to you about, but also with as much respect as you can for how much it's taken people to be there, to make the investment to be in an office, and frankly, to lay themselves out with projects that expose how good or bad their judgment is in this marketplace. So in the first instance, you don't go left. You go to the right. You go down the escalators, all the way down. You look for the sign saying registration. You go there, you get your badge, you get, among other things, a quite handy walking guide to all the venues that are relevant within not only that building, but the actual route over to the Century Plaza Mall, where all of the screenings will be held. With your badge around your neck, you can, on that same floor, stop to visit the film commissions, who have their own venue called Location Expo. You may stop in the Innovation Hub on that floor, which is the haven for new AI exhibitors and other, cutting edge technology service providers who are looking to get your attention as you put together, how am I actually going to make my next film? It is also going to be the venue for all of the conferences and sessions, 2 different stages, depending on the badge that you actually have purchased. You can move in and out of those different stages Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to the conferences. But the one place you may well want to know about is on that same floor, you will find a filmmaker's lounge. The filmmaker's lounge is open for you. It's a place to sit. It's a place to talk to your colleagues, catch your breath, figure out what you're going to do next. You'll be surrounded by a lot of other people moving around to all these various exhibits, but there are going to be chairs, Wi-Fi, God willing, as we always say, chargers, food, whatever you need. So find that early on and figure out whether or not that's a good place for you to set up other meetings of your own. If you come up one level, you will find the first collection of sales company exhibitors. The next level houses, I think it's 26 sales companies who have chosen to exhibit in group rooms. They've taken a meeting table with a couple of chairs, a lot of backdrops, but they like the interest and excitement of being where there's a lot of traffic, not only what they've scheduled themselves, but other people coming in and potentially taking an interest in their projects. As you come up from that, you will be back to the lobby. Again, there will be food offerings, things of that nature up there. And through the back door, you can make your way, if you're going to screenings, over to the Century City Mall and locate the screening venues there using your handy map. One of the things people always ask is, how do I figure out what to do? Now I know where to do it. How do I figure out what it is? Some basic guidelines. The first thing you probably want to do is, as soon as you've bought a badge going through our website, is you will be given access to the AFM25 app. The app can be downloaded to your phone. It has all the basic information in it as to where everything and everybody is. But it also becomes a good way to work out your schedule. So you will want to take a look at that. It'll let you reach out to other people. And so you'll want to use that. The other thing you need to know about is the film catalog. IFTA sponsors from year to year the film catalog, which is exactly what it sounds like, the filmcatalog.com, in which everyone who participates in the AFM can post all of their pending projects. During the AFM, the screening schedule also lives on the film catalog. So it's easy to go from, there's a listing here for this film at 11 o'clock in this theater. What is the film? And you can back up and see a description. The more important thing, if you're coming to the market with project ideas, is you need to find people. If you're trying to make appointments, you need to find people who handle projects like the one you've got. It is useless to go to a company you've heard of who does completely horror if what you're trying to sell is an animated rom-com, and vice versa. What you can do with the film catalog is research every company you're interested in. Look them up. Look at what their lineup looks like. Figure out if it does look like your project would fit in there somewhere, because those are good. You're seeing there an indication of what buyers they know. And the most important thing for you is going to be find somebody who's interested in working with you. But that's going to be determined by whether or not they think I can sell whatever you're bringing to them. So use the film catalog to get a sense of where individual companies are operating and whether or not it's useful for you to seek out an appointment with them. I think I have been asked to also tell you that when you look at badges and you go to buy them, you should be aware that certain badges carry preferred entrance to the major conferences. They also might well give you a free subscription to Sonando, which is the international database maintained through the Cannes film market, which also shows you who's gone to Cannes, what their lineup looked like in Cannes. Easy way to check other people's credentials if they've ever been to Cannes and have registered there. So it's a very good add-on to the apps you've got and the industry knowledge that you would carry in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. I think I could talk for some hours about what to be aware of and what to take pleasure in. The main thing about the market, I think, is everybody who is there, bar none, is doing what they believe in. And whatever may or may not be true in different contexts and different daylight and different locations, they are doing their absolute best to buy and sell the product that they believe audiences want. And as part of that, as you enter into it, you will be regarded as one of the professionals in that sphere. You're not a student, you're not a novice, you're not anything of that nature. You are there because you're professional enough to know that you want to benefit from the AFM, to come there with questions, with an interest in interacting with people who are occupying either your role or other related roles within the industry, and to learn as much as you can. And I have always said, I've run this organization, and a lot of running it is detail and excruciatingly agonizing governance stuff. The part that has always given me pleasure is watching our members do what they're good at. And they are very good. And I think everyone listening to this has taken the first step toward joining that group, and you should relish it. And I hope you will all join us. So with that, Clay, let me pass it off to you, and you can now be the voice of
Thank you, Jean.
somber advice.
You've convinced me to go to AFM this year.
Good, good. It's going to cost you a bundle.
I'm convinced. I prepared a little slide, so if you bear with me, I'm going to try and share my screen. Hold on just a moment.
And Clay, if you need help, I can walk you through it.
How's that looking?
Good.
Did that work?
Yep, we can see it
It
perfect.
actually worked. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for having me. Thank you, Stage 32. So Jean said this is the 46th AFM, I think is what she said. I have not attended all of them. I would have been a little bit small, but I have been attending every AFM since 1999, which I'm very proud of. I started quite young in the industry and I've stuck with it. And I have incredible love and passion for this business on the independent side. I am the owner of Film Mode Entertainment, which is a worldwide sales company for feature films, as well as an executive producer. And also, as my heading said, I'm the former chairperson of IFTA 2 terms, which I'm very proud of. That's the last 4 years. I've just handed over the keys to my successor, Paul. I've also been on and off the board in other positions other than the chairperson. And I've had quite an that gives you quite an inside look on the preparation, what goes into organizing AFM. So not only have I attended AFM as a producer and sales agent for quite a while, I've also attended AFM as a board member and as a chairperson, which confuses some colleagues. They actually think you're an information booth, which I'm not, although I've been used as that more than once. But it certainly has given me an enormous respect for what goes on to creating AFM and for Jean's team, especially having moved locations 3 times now in a very short period, out of necessity and trying to maintain a market that's appealing and effective for everybody. I think coming back to LA is great. I think the Fairmont is going to be the best, if not one of the best locations we've ever had the market at. If you're not familiar with where that is, it's the Century Plaza in the middle of Century City. It's across the street from the Century City Mall. It's across the street from CAA, the largest talent agency. It's a hotel that's used for Directors Guild Awards, Producer Guild Awards, and other big industry events. So it's a great property. It's beautiful, and it really is going to serve our members well. I put together this little slide here just to kind of keep things organized. I like acronyms. Market seemed to be like an appropriate acronym for today. I want to make sure we have enough time for questions and answers, but I do want to go through a few things. The first thing is really, what am I doing? What do I do? What does Filmo do at AFM? Well, those floors of offices that Gene referred to are hotel rooms converted into offices of film companies like myself, larger and smaller. The core activity that's happening in those offices during AFM are executives meeting with distribution companies from around the world. Those are the core meetings happening in these offices, where you have sales executives that are meeting with potential distributors in every country in the world, trying to secure distribution deals for the films they represent. These films may be at a script stage, they might be shooting, they might be in post-production, they might be completed. But the point is these projects are in need of a distribution partner all over the world. These meetings are usually back-to-back 30, 35-minute meetings, plus a lunch meeting, plus a breakfast meeting, plus a dinner meeting, plus drinks, plus some sort of entertainment. So we're running 12, 13, 14-hour days. And as much fun as an enjoyment and the adrenaline has us going, it is still work. It is still our job and our career. And we all take it extremely seriously and professionally. And that's one of the main points I want to come across this panel today, is professionalism being key, both from your side as well as the other side, and the event. It's a professional environment. As interesting as the entertainment industry can be, nonconformist as the entertainment industry can be, this is still our form of professionalism. And always keep that in mind when you attend the AFM and you have meetings or hope to have meetings. The other core types of meetings that are happening, or maybe the second level of types of meetings that are happening, are with producers such as yourselves. Not every sales company is coming with an acquisition executive or development executive. They are not always at that market. Some companies focus their time at the market to have meetings with producers, and some don't. So one of the things that you need to do beforehand is to find out if the company you're interested in meeting even has a representative at the market that would be appropriate to meet you. You also have to keep in mind that the larger prestige popular companies like Neon, like A24, like Lionsgate, is rarely going to meet with unsolicited producers they do not know at AFM. Those sorts of meetings just don't really happen in those instances. So you also have to be realistic about trying to get up to A24's office and waiting outside the door, hoping that some development executive is going to change your life over an elevator pitch. Things like that rarely happen in this professional environment. So let's get to my acronym, because we worked so hard on it. Make a plan, right? Make a plan, which really means have a sense of what you're trying to accomplish at the AFM. I think you should give yourself a realistic expectation of just coming to the market, just being there, being amongst your peers, being in the environment of independent film and the business of that, going to the panels that AFM produces. AFM produces some of the best industry panels I've ever participated on, not just because I have been moderating one for 15 years, because I've done other festivals and markets as well, but they are incredibly well attended by the panelists are so good. Part of that is because we're in LA, but part of it is because AFM is so linked into the industry so directly. And we have members and colleagues that are such at a high level in their career. And so I would really focus on attending the panels and just giving yourself realistic expectations of just feeling how it is, trying to do some networking, walking the halls, kind of knowing what your place is. If you have a film project that you are at AFM specifically for to try and either get financed or to meet a sales company, is it just a script? Is it finished? Is it in post? What status is it in? If it is just a script, you have to imagine that every office there probably has hundreds of scripts that they themselves are trying to get financed. So if you just have a script, taking the time out of an acquisition executive's day to pitch them a script of a first-time filmmaker without any financing attached is kind of a tough ask. But if you have a film in post or a VFX-driven film that you have some clips of or some samples of, if you have a trailer, if you have a previs, always try and come with some sort of assets that are visual. And that can sometimes help you get a meeting. Ideally, you would try and reach out to those companies beforehand, because to wait in line at their office and then get to a host or hostess and then try and set a meeting with an executive that probably is coming with a full meeting schedule already is a tall ask. So I come back to realistic expectations, professionalism, how you prepare for the market, reach out to the companies beforehand, and you'll be surprised how many meetings you might be able to truly secure with the right person if you do that preparation before the market. Appearance matters, yes. You know, I used to wear a suit and tie. Now I wear usually a blazer or some, you know, it's business casual. It's LA. You're going to see everything. My personal belief and my tip and the way I believe is the best to present yourself, dress appropriately for you in a professional environment, right? You know, you're trying to meet people that don't know you. And this is an environment where you're trying to create a career for yourself or trying to get work, trying to find partners, you're networking. So do you have to wear a suit and tie if you're a man and a skirt or professional suit for a woman? Not necessarily. I would say dress professionally in a way that you're comfortable with, but I would give it some thought. You are in a professional environment. And that really leads itself to representing yourself. Yes, how you look, how you speak, how you conduct yourself, how you reach out to the companies beforehand, how you conduct yourself in the Q&A during the panels. Most of the panels, I think, have a digital Q&A. My panel, I have a verbal Q&A. I pass a microphone around. I think it's more important. We're here to network, and I think it's nice for the audience to be able to ask questions directly to the panelists. But take that with respect and responsibility. Don't say I have 8 questions, question 1, and also make sure your questions are relevant to the topic we're talking about. I spoke a bit about know the market and have realistic expectations. If you're in LA, if you live in LA and you have a few days before, go down to the Fairmont, have a drink in the lobby, get familiar with the environment, right? It'll be a little bit less intimidating if you come on day 1 or day 2 and it's just packed with attendees running around like crazy. Get a sense of how long it's going to take you to get down to Century City, park at the Century City Mall. That's going to be easier. Walk across the street. If you're comfortable and you feel comfortable and confident, you're going to come off as a much more confident individual. Engage and expand networking. Yes, just being at the AFM is it the best networking experience you have, but there's always going to be other parties and cocktails happening kind of as a spider web off AFM. And as you network through that week and meet people, maybe you'll be able to be invited to some of those events. And we know that we're in an industry that networking is so key. AFM is crucial to attend if you are a filmmaker or want to be a filmmaker. If you're a filmmaker and don't come to the AFM, I don't consider you serious about your career. Takeaways, tips, and tricks. Well, the biggest tip, and you've come to this panel and this little how to work the AFM, which is great. You're going to attend the AFM, which is great. But tips and tricks, maybe some business cards. I use a QR code that's a digital business card. That's nice to have. I would make sure you have those assets for the project you're working on so you can easily text them or have someone scan a QR code to access a little teaser. Make sure you have, phone chargers and all of that. That's kind of common sense. I think the biggest tip and trick is to repeat what I've said before, and that's reach out to potential meetings now beforehand. You may not get a response right away. It may not be the right fit, but at least you've done the homework. Because if you've done your preparation, you've at least given it its best shot. If you show up on day one without any prep work and you expect to get meetings, again, realistic expectations. We all come with a full schedule on day one. Our schedule is full already. And always keep that in mind when you try and reach out to us. Thank you very much. I'm excited to see you there. Come by and say hello. And I think RB's up next. Thank you.
Oh, Barbie, you're muted.
First rule, unmute yourself. Thank you, Clay. That was fantastic. Really, really well done. And I like the acronym. And thank you to Gene.
Thank you, RB. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought the information was fantastic. In fact, it took a lot of what I was going to say, but that's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's all good because it really, I think it plays into the idea of some of this stuff might seem like common sense, but it's not, right? You know, some of it is, you know, everybody goes in with a lot of enthusiasm. Everybody's excited. You know, my relationship with AFM to kind of enter into this is, you know, everybody thinks just because I'm the CEO of Stage 32, we've had this partnership for 10 years. I've been speaking at AFM for over 13 years. I think it's my 14th year. This book back here, Crowdsourcing for Filmmakers, that Rutledge Focal Press asked me to write was under the AFM banner. So I have a very romantic attachment to AFM, including with the gentleman that used to run AFM, Jonathan Wolf, who was a dear friend of mine for a long time and retired a couple of years ago. So, but my beginnings with AFM actually started as a producer. And I was going to AFM before I, you know, even launched Stage 32. And somebody asked me the other day, you know, what was your first remembrance of it? And what I remember specifically was sort of the chaotic nature of everybody looking to get something done, right? Everybody was there for a reason, but there was also the other thing that came with that a little bit was there was some desperation in the air. And that desperation, what I learned over time, people could smell that from a mile away, right? You want to come in, as Clay and Gene outlined, much really knowing your story, your pitch, knowing why you're there, knowing exactly what your targets are, setting up those targets ahead of time. I did none of that the first year. The other thing that was totally unexpected for me was I went in just specifically with this idea that we were going to sell this project, and I didn't really recognize the educational opportunities. I didn't realize the importance of networking. I was new to the business. Not that that isn't, you know, obvious for every industry, but it really is in this industry. This industry is more tribal than any other out there, in my opinion. And the importance of having, I always say, you know, I like to kill 5 birds with 1 stone. Well, now when I go to AFM, it's really all about going in with my projects. Obviously, this partnership I have with AFM, making new relationships, forging further the relationships that I've started to build over the years. And now, even through those relationships, when we launched Stage 32 certification years ago, that wouldn't have happened without all the relationships I made as a producer with film commissioners that I met at AFM. So all of those things are paramount to the success that I've had in this business. And I should mention that, you know, I've produced over a dozen films, and the very, very first one, which was Sam Levinson's first movie, really came through relationships that I made at AFM, along with some of the relationships that came going to Cannes as well, which is very similar. So all to say that you should go in with a singular, you should go in not with a singular purpose, but with the purpose of, yes, you're going in there to sell a project, but you're also going in there to meet people. Look at the short term and look at the long term. The short term might be that you're looking to do something with the project. The long term is you're looking to build a career and you're looking to build relationships over time. And that factors into what Clay was talking about regarding professionalism. You don't want to come in seeming like you don't know what's going on in the industry or seeming like you don't know what goes on at the market, right? You got to remember that when you go to AFM, you're one of many, but the ultimate goal is to be one of one. And what I mean by that is you have to recognize that every single person that you're targeting has a job to do as well. They have a goal as well. So every room that you walk into, every single development executive, sales agent, it doesn't matter, distributor, it doesn't matter. They're there to do a job as well, and they're there to do business. And I think some people get way too emotional about this entire process, and they don't realize that at the end of the day that this is a business and that everybody has somebody to answer to or a job to do. So I would very, very highly suggest that when you go in, that you remember that every single person you're meeting with is a human being, just like you are as well. So treat them like that. You do not need to start every conversation launching into, your project and what you're doing. Ask people. I have this rule of three that I talk about all the time. Ask people 3 times, something about them or what you could do for them before you ever ask them to do something for you. Build relationships, build associations. Remember that this is a long game. I think that's really, really highly important. um Gene mentioned the film commissions. Don't skimp on that. Go to Film Expo, speak to the film commissioners. This is a global business now. It's not, when I first started, everything was LA. It's not that way anymore. We know that filmmaking is happening all over the world. Borders are being knocked down every day. Make relationships. You never know where you're going to be filming or where your opportunities might present a better way of going to film, or a less expensive way of going to film. Um, Go to the panels. Gene mentioned everything about what they're doing right now with like producers working with SAG. I just worked on a film where if I had, this knowledge years ago, it took me a long time to get there. These are shortcuts in a lot of ways, and ways to learn things that are going to be highly important to you as a producer as you move forward. Gene talked about AI. We can't avoid it. It's not going away. It's going to be there. But how do we use it responsibly? What are the guardrails going to be? Where are we going to be at it? Educate yourself instead of pushing back against it. I wish I would have went to the panels a lot more during the first few years when I went to AFM. When I started going to them, everything changed. It really did. And not only did it change for me because I was getting that information, but I was in a room with like-minded people that had similar interests. And that allowed me, after the fact, to sit and network with people and talk to people and ask people why they were there. And again, so many relationships were forged off of that. Um, know your pitch. Definitely know your 30-second pitch, your 2-minute pitch, your 5-minute pitch. Understand that people are there long, long hours. They don't want to watch a 40-minute trailer, which, by the way, is longer than a short. People will come in with that. I've seen it happen. I've been in those rooms on the receiving end of that. I've been on the receiving end of somebody that's 15 minutes into a pitch, and I'm like, we have another meeting, and they're like, it's just 10 more minutes. Don't be that person. You're not going to get out of it what you want to get out of it. Know your pitch, go in prepared, go in professional, which was a theme of what Gene and Clay spoke about earlier. The biggest thing, really, honestly, to me, is just remember that everybody's a human being. Remember that there are opportunities everywhere, but you have to focus on where those opportunities are. One thing that Gene mentioned, and I thought it was great, is don't go in to pitch, a horror, project to somebody that doesn't do horror. And it happens all the time. Make sure you know what you're doing. Understand the business. Understanding the business. If you look at what we do at Stage 32 at our education, we were talking about this on Friday when we were prepping for this. The craft side of the business is evergreen. It's stuff that we recorded a while ago because it really doesn't change. But the business side is what we really put our emphasis on. It's probably 90% of our days. And the reason for that is because it's changing so rapidly, and it changes at the speed of sound. And the other reason is because so many people put the emphasis on the craft and they don't understand how to navigate the business. This conference, this market, this is everything about navigating the business. This is sort of ground zero for learning and understanding how to navigate the business, and ground zero for making those relationships that will move the rock on your career. So I have a few more things I want to say, but I also kind of want to leave time for the Q&A because I feel like the rubber hits the road when we do the Q&A. So I rather, Amanda, if you're up for it, we're already an hour in. I rather kick into the Q&A and see if we can answer some questions that we haven't answered already or that we haven't covered already.
Yeah, I'm sure happy to dive into Q&A. Just give me 1 second here. I'm going to stick the link in the chat box for everybody. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the official lounge link. Or if you are not a Stage 32 member, stick them in the Q&A section. But first of all, Jean, Clay, RB, thank you guys so much. That was
Pleasure.
excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was
You
excellent.
guys didn't need me. You two were
Could I
just
just say something about the questions? I don't like answering questions from anonymous. We just talked about 45 minutes of networking, and if it's an
Mhm,
anonymous person asking a question, they're missing the point here.
mhm.
So I don't think it's fair. I think you got to say who you are. We're here trying to network, so it's contradicting.
I love that.
Well, that also reminds me of one thing I wanted to add to what Arby has said, which is we've talked a lot about how you get the most out of the market. It's important that everyone remember you also have something to give. Networking only works if both sides are
Very good point.
contributing to it. And I
Yes,
think
good
that's,
point.
yeah, and I think that's what it also goes to Clay's point, which is, among other things, don't undervalue yourselves.
Yeah,
It's a great
for sure.
No one has a lock on where creative ideas come from, where you're going to need help going forward. And so I think part of this is also to encourage you to be an active participant as you go through this.
I like telling the story that I did acquire a film out of AFM one year from a woman that attended the panel I was moderating. And
Mhm.
she had reached out beforehand. She was professional. She came to the meeting with a little teaser and her investor, and we ended up acquiring the film. And the next market, we were selling her film. But
Yeah,
the way she handled herself was so, even though it was her first film, she presented herself as a professional, seasoned filmmaker.
Mhm.
That's
and
great.
that speaks to what you were talking about earlier, is that you're going to walk through the door one of many, but how do you become one of
Right,
one, right? How do you
right,
become that person, right? How do you
right.
stand out? And it does begin with professionalism, and that awareness that you're speaking to another human being that has goals as well.
All right, guys. So diving on in. So everybody who just attended, please type your questions either in the official lounge link or the Q&A. And then for everybody that's here too, Stage 32 has been really, really proud education partner of the AFM for over a decade at this point. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, with your badge this year, you'll get access to a free Stage 32 individual certification course, as well as a free webinar. So any of these questions that are coming up, and if you want to dive a little bit deeper into it in terms of like how to prep for a meeting or understanding the market, we have over 3,000 hours of online webinars and classes that you can take on Stage 32. So highly encourage everybody to take advantage of that with your badge this year. So just be on the lookout for the emails that'll be coming out from us, that you'll get your code. And you could also always reach out to our education team if you need help. They'll point you in the right direction. And that's very, very simple. That's just edu@stage32.com. All right, so let's dive on in. First question I have is just a logistics question. This is from Riva, and Riva said, what is the advantage of a 3-day badge instead of a 1-day badge for a first-time participant?
Three
Um,
times is good.
Yeah, right. But the other advantage of it is with a 3-day badge, particularly if it's a plus, which gives you entrance to the major stage. A 3-day badge actually lets you participate more heavily in the conference activities. It also gives you time to figure out the lay of the land and to work through some of the relationships, as opposed to just, fighting traffic, parking at the mall, working your way over, moving around, trying very quickly to get your sea legs, maybe have one meeting, and then it's over. That's not the best way to really participate unless you already have a strong background in working the AFM and in the relationships you need there.
If you're trying to get a meeting or you're meeting or you meet someone on day one, the chances that they're going to have an opening to meet that day is slim.
Mhm.
So you could say, oh, what do you have available over the next two to 3 days? And that attendee will be able to come back for that meeting or book other meetings planning ahead over those 3 days, whether it's with colleagues they meet in the panel or the producer networking side, or even in the sales office. They may be able to book a meeting in the sales side, but the chance of it being the same day is slim.
But I would encourage everyone who's not certain as to which badge they want and which of the options matter to them to reach out to our registration team, who'll be happy to walk you through what the different badges offer and help you maximize the chances that you'll be able to get that based on which of the options you pick.
I know Clay was kind of half joking that, 3 times but it really is. It's three
Yeah.
times the 3 times the opportunity to get familiar with the entire lay of the land and really get comfortable, which will pay off the next time you go.
Mhm.
But also 3 times the opportunity to meet people and to,
Right.
make yourself seen.
Right. Imagine running into the same person 3 days in a row. Now you have a contact.
Mhm.
Mhm.
If that's not reason, it's, alone,
Completely. And you guys, I stuck the resource for the registrations for the AFM. So it's registration at ifta-online.org. I stuck that in the chat box. And I'll also put that on the official lounge link. All right, next question, guys, I have from Jonathan. And Jonathan says, is there a way to find out what companies will be represented so you can contact them beforehand?
We have already released a partial list of the sales companies that will be there. The complete list is posted and renewed on the American Film Market website. So after you've gotten your badge, you can certainly check there and see the total list. Otherwise, we do release it to the press periodically, but without other links. It's easier to get it through our website.
And then taking that a step further, I'm going to kind of paraphrase a question here from Brady. Is there a way to, you guys had talked a little bit earlier about making sure that you're not pitching, say, a comedy project to a horror producer or a horror production company. Is
The
there,
film catalog.
can you expand on that
Well,
in
Yeah,
detail?
the film catalog is one of the easiest ways because it actually shows you listings by most of the companies that will be participating and shows you the projects they're bringing to market. The other thing you can always do is if you've started with the list of those companies, go to their website. And they, first of all, in many cases will tell you we are the premier horror movie propagator of the world or some such, but they'll also show you what their current lineup looks like and give you a very strong sense of how they identify themselves in the market. I think, Clay, you may have had another tip as to where to look.
yeah, I had two other tips there. I would use IMDb Pro when you're researching companies and producers. IMDb Pro is a very powerful tool. It's worth every penny. And when you reach out to the companies, you can ask them, I have a comedy. Do you handle comedy? They're going to write back and say, sure, if you have an A-list actor in it. Generally speaking, here's a tip for the day. Generally speaking, if you have a comedy with no one in it that's famous, you're not going to get a bite.
Right.
There's your tip of the day.
Thank you.
Also, we keep talking about genre too, but you should also know budget. You should know like what
You should know
well, not just your
nailed it.
budget. Yeah, not just your budget, but what budget range they
but RB
operate
have
in.
a good point because when I've had unsolicited meetings and they say, oh, my budget's $33 million, I want to escort them out of the office. We're wasting everyone's time. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's a waste of everyone's time.
It's also useful to note that IMDb Pro is coming into the market this year as a co-sponsor of all of the sessions. So they will also be present.
That's great.
Will have their own table. If you don't yet have the requisite subscriptions, I would encourage you to stop and chat with them. But Clay's right, they are a very good source of information as to what people really spent, as opposed to what the trades might tell you.
Definitely. And then speaking of the trades, for those of you who may be from different countries that are coming in, and you may not be familiar with all of the different trades to be reading. RB, you always have a good list of trades for people to make sure they're following.
Yeah, I mean, with my morning coffee, and it's been non-negotiable for the last 15 years, I guess, or 13 years I've been a producer. It's real simple. It's just Deadline, The Wrap, The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and occasionally IndieWire. But
And
those
Screen. I will
and
And
actually
screen.
say for
Yeah.
those of us
Yeah.
in certainly the market world, the international market world, and many, many people who are in the international distribution world, Screen and Screen International have become critical because they are much more heavily invested in the international business than they are in the talent world. It's unfortunately a sad commentary on reporting these days that most of the trades have had to pull back on their international representation. So you become very attuned as to who's got somebody on site at these other events. The Hollywood Reporter, Screen, and
Deadline.
Variety
Yeah, right.
will all be present. I mean, they are distributing directly at the AFM and will do dailies. There are another, I think, 20 international publications that will also be distributing their publications at the AFM. So if you haven't sampled broadly, again, it's going to be an easy way to do it, but I would certainly use the list that RB has given you plus Screen.
great, more important than ever. It's a great
Yeah.
point, Gina, because Screen, I mean, the international market, like we were talking about earlier, it's so important that you understand that. And you know, I know we don't want to overstress this, but I think it's important that we do, is you will give yourself a massive competitive advantage over many just having an understanding about how the business works and what's going on in the business. You'd be amazed.
Completely. I would love to dive in. I have various different questions going from all of the chat boxes here. People would like to get a little bit more specific about what to be prepared with when they go there. Each of you guys have talked about, have a sizzle, have a pitch, have a this, have a that.
Mm.
Can we get in a little bit more detail in terms of
Yeah, I can. What's
the pitch deck, what should be in the pitch deck?
What's best for us is if we are contacted before the market with some assets. That's usually a deck, but not a 45-page deck, an 8-page deck that outlines everything. And ideally, not a rip-o-matic, that doesn't help us. But if it's a sizzle or a previs or a teaser of actual assets, if it's a VFX driven film, who's the VFX house? Do you have a sample of what the VFX might look like? Who's the director? A brief idea of what the story is. These can be 1.5 to 2 minutes. And that's it. And if they're interested, they're going to write back and say, can I see the script? Can I read the script? And then you can go to the AFM with these assets on an iPad. You can have the deck and the sizzle on an iPad.
And of course, if you've already got talent attached, if you have a budget and you actually have some funding,
put it in there. You're going to get called back quicker. You're going to get an email real quick if you have known talent and financing insurance.
Yeah. And one thing you should keep an eye on if you are going to the AFM and investing in one of the badges that gives you access, Saturday morning is the pitch conference, which is an incredible event. It includes very, very high profile Cassian Elways, who is a major agent for years and filmmaker, one or two other people at that level in the industry who actually listen to pitches. And you can either submit your pitch early on, I think it's going on now, and maybe be selected to do the pitch. But in addition, at the end, they take a handful of pitches from volunteers in the audience. And it's absolutely worth observing, listening to. In some cases, I've listened to and thought, oh, well, that's not fair. But that's the business. It's the way you catch people on a particular day. And so it's very interesting. The questions are really push people hard on what
I also wanted to
so you should certainly consider doing that if you're not if you have not if you don't have a tried and true pitch style at this point.
I also wanted to add one more reason for someone to have more than a day pass and to utilize the sales office side in terms of familiarizing themselves with the marketplace. As they go walk by the offices, and if they are able to go into an office and say hello to a host and make some sort of contact, they're usually going to see posters, movie posters, and imagery from the films that are being marketed. And that in and of itself is incredibly important information to absorb, because you are now seeing firsthand how professional companies are promoting and marketing and positioning their films. And as a filmmaker, you should take note of that. Take note of how they're being presented. What do the posters look like? How are they designed? What's the composition like? It's all done from a very strategic, psychological perspective. Even if the filmmaker may not like the way a particular poster looks, or they don't think it's representing their film accurately, film artwork, key art, is a very psychological area. And it has become more psychological and more strategic in terms of color and composition and sizing because of the digital platforms and where that artwork shows up. And so that alone is invaluable for a filmmaker to see.
Terrific. And the one thing I wanted to talk about too was, Jean was talking about the pitch conference. We did get some questions about that. Stage 32 has been involved with the pitch conference for several years, and we have mentored the winners of the pitch conference with Cassian and L'Oreal and Lee. So we've chosen the winners, and what's been really great is those winners have gone on to work with executives that are on the Stage 32 platform, and the past winners are now in development with Ian Bryce's company. We have one that is developing it, and they're going out to pitch to Lifetime. Another one, a duo that won, they attached a director and brought that to Cannes this year. So, the pitch conference really is an incredible resource for you guys to attend, because you're seeing how people are pitching and getting the feedback from Cassian and L'Oreal and Lee. It really is terrific. So, one question that you guys haven't covered, and that has come up in both of these chat boxes, are there are people who are attending who may not have attachments to their project. It may just be a script only stage. So what would your recommendations be for people who might be listening in that might just have a script only and are attending the AFM?
Well, I would still come, of course, and I would attend the panels and the educational, and then I would walk the hallways to see what types of films are being sold, what type of posters there are, read the trays to see what sorts of films are being acquired, developed, licensed, and ask yourself if your film fits into that space anywhere, or if there's elements of your film that fits it, or your script that fits into that space. The chances of getting a meeting with just an unsolicited script is slim, I'll be honest, because there's no incentivizing reason for a company to give up 30, 40 minutes for an unknown writer with a script that's unattached or has no financing. But I would see it as attending the AFM should be thought of almost as part of your development process, perhaps. And you may, by attending, make some contacts and networking efforts that you can then create some attachments or get some attachments. Whether that's a producer. If you're not a producer and you have a script, your key reason for going to the AFM is to try and find a producer.
Producers.
That should be your main reason.
I love that last point, Clay. I think that's exactly it. Is that, the second question would be, how do I get those attachments, right? And
Right.
That's the reason why you should be there. That's the importance of, like I said earlier, the killing 5 birds with one stone. You're going in with a project, you're going in with an idea, you're going with a focus on one thing, but your focus really should be global. It should be, how do I make those relationships? How do I build those? How do I learn? How do I learn from people that are doing it? You mentioned even going to the bar at the Fairmont. I mean, there's a lot of business that gets done after, hours, and you'd be surprised at the people that hang around and that will be willing to talk. And, as long as you're handling yourself correctly, you'll probably enter some conversations that you might not have thought possible before or prior to going. And that certainly won't be happening if you're just sitting home. So it's, there is it's the chicken and egg thing, right? How do I get the attachments without knowing anybody? And how do I get to know people, without having that clout? Well, this is one way to get to know people without having that clout.
If I could add on that too, look at this. We're all in this business. Why? It's because we love movies.
No
We-
idea.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, right.
first of all,
Accident, must be an accident.
but we love movies, right? We love television. We love stories. And, there's something that's beautiful, that I completely agree with all of the panelists here in that you have to be prepared before you go. But at the end of the day, you never know. At the end of the day, you might find yourself in an elevator with someone who's had 100 meetings back to back, but for some reason there could be a creative spark between the two of you that of a movie that you fell in love with 20 years ago that executive loved as well. And you know what, you may have a script only, but that might be that source of inspiration for that tired executive for that day, and that could be a relationship that could last a lifetime. So
Well, the fact is that somebody at the AFM is going to get on the train to success. And the question is, have you connected strongly enough so that you're part of that journey? Now, I'm duty bound to recite because I've been asked to by my team. In addition to finding attachments to films, there have been marriages that have come out of the AFM, which have lasted. So there are a lot of different types of attachments that may occur. But again, it's what RB has said and others have said. You're in a business that is very one-on-one when it chooses to be, and where people for out your entire professional career. And this is a place where you make more of those relationships, and they'll come in and out based on what you're working on or they're working on. But this is a way to build those muscles and be a participant.
terrific. All right, so this is a great question from Jan, and Jan says, I know this is a movie market, but what if you have a TV pilot? Can you talk a little bit about people that might be coming to AFM with television projects?
Well, a surprising number of certainly our member companies, and I think companies in the industry generally, have moved into television. And I would say that the development cycle on TV, of course, is different. So you put much more weight in the TV arena on who the writer is, a lot of times, than on who the director is. It's just a kind of difference as to where talent might be. But you certainly have companies like Electric Entertainment, which was an IFTA member, mainstay on the film side, which has moved heavily into television. A number of the other companies have now built TV divisions. And Studio Canal, for example, has a very strong TV division with executives moving in and out of film and television as they move up the ladder. I mean, Clay, you probably can think of others. Those are the two that come to mind that were just, kind of mainstays on the film side, who now are very active on the TV side.
Yeah.
And again, you just have to do your research.
Perfect. I'm getting more questions here. Tio said, how in an email do you cut through the noise? You guys are talking about getting in touch with people ahead of time. So can you give some tips on how you can cut through the noise ahead of AFM to be able to get these meetings actually set?
Just be professional. When I see an email that's trying to be too cute, or I'm sure you get 1,000 emails a day, but we're not paying attention to that. Just be polite and professional and cut to the chase and send the assets and a little bit of I'm developing a film, this, about such and such, please see a teaser and a deck attached. If this sparks interest, I'd love to set up a meeting at AFM. We'll be attending on these days. Let me know if I can send you the script. And is there any financing attached? Is there a director or producer? What are the production plans? Because you have to put yourself in the perspective of us, the executives or the companies you're hoping to get help from. What are we looking for? What's our incentivizing reason to meet with someone, right? And what would spark our interest, right? And so a script with nothing is, we all have scripts with no attachments. we all have plenty of them. Why would we get involved in one we don't even own, right? But if there's IP that we don't have, but you have, and it's commercial, interesting IP that you're starting to build something around, now you're building value for what you're trying to make, and that can be appealing for a company to get involved in, and together help you push the boulder up the hill. I think it's worth noting that as positive and optimistic as we all are, and I think everyone, again, that's interested in being a filmmaker needs to be at the AFM. The fantasy ideal of I'm going to meet someone in an elevator and they're going to change my life forever, that doesn't happen. It never happened. That's something that we like hearing about because we want to think that can happen. This is an industry like any other industry. What sets it apart is it's mixed with business and creative. That's what sets it apart. As long as you respect that and you respect the industry and you respect the professionalism, and again, you manage your expectations, you can come into the AFM confident and with optimism that you're going to start making connections and start learning the business and start learning how to conduct yourself, learn how to meet people, learn how to act in a meeting, how to conduct yourself in a meeting. If you don't do it, you're not going to learn how to do it. You have to find your way. The first time you pitch, it's going to be a disaster. But the 20th, 30th, or 40th time you pitch, it's going to be smooth as silk. And then the next time it'll be a disaster again because you'll be tired. You will have gone out the night before. But it'll at least, it's like a muscle. You have to work the muscle, right?
If I could add one thing to that, I think that's great. Personality is fine. Bullshit is not. If you don't have the asset, or don't say, oh, I think I can get it, or I might be able to have it, or you might have this attachment, or
I
I
love
met
it.
actor, I saw actor, A across the bar at the Four Seasons, and he looked at me, so I think he'd be happy to do the movie. You have to really come with the facts, right? It really is that sort of, that thing that value, I always say value and a lack of bullshit get you very, very far. The value you can bring in a lack of bullshit.
I'm so glad you bring that up, RB. If you say I have either a director or talent attached, you know that we're going to text. Chance 9 times out of 10, if we don't know the actual talent, we know their rep. We're going to text them the moment you leave the office, and we're going to say, "Is this true?" And if they write back, "I have never heard of this project in my life," you're out. And we're going to tell all our colleagues, don't waste their time, because now you're throwing around talent that you don't have any attachment with.
Don't burn your reputation.
Yeah.
Don't burn your reputation on hope. Burn your reputation. Elevate your reputation with facts. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. All right, just one more quick question, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. And then you guys, I'll put the lounge link again in the chat box. So I know once we get off today, the reason why we're sending everybody to the lounge link is that if you still have questions, you can ask them in the lounge link, and the AFM team will be in there. They can answer any questions that you have in there. And then also, if you guys are going to AFM for the first time, or if you're looking to connect, go into the lounge link and send network requests to everybody that's in there. So then that way you've got some friends once you step foot into the hotel this year. All right. So next question I have from Diane, and she said, "This is my first AFM as a sales exec. Do you have any tips?"
Oh, she's a sales executive?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have to flash all the way back to 1999. Uh, Pace yourself.
Yeah, very important. Yeah.
Don't don't overdo it the first couple of nights. So really pace yourself. Make sure you get some sleep at least the first couple of nights, because the pace and the long hours, if you're not used to that, it can really surprise you on day two or three. Some of the veterans, regardless of age, can go much further longer, but it's you kind of build up tolerance. But if it's your first market, pace yourself. And what I mean by that is, don't overdo it in the evening. Do what you have to do, but don't overdo it, so you can get some sleep and be prepared. Make sure you have your notes, make sure you have your pricing, make sure you're taking your notes. Um, Try to get to the office just a little bit earlier than you need to, so that's not worrying on you. Hopefully you don't have to fight through traffic coming from the valley. But that would be my preparation and pacing. And don't overschedule what you're worried about accomplishing. Those are mistakes I made at the beginning. I would overschedule, and I would be extremely anxious and nervous and going nuts, rushing from lunch back to a meeting. I was late for the lunch, then I was late for the meeting, then I was late for the next meeting. Make sure you work out a schedule that's realistic and you're not late for everything.
And I think a couple of related things, one of which is don't take it personally. You're going to do your best to sell the product you've got. But people are going to say no, or people are going to, if only as a negotiating tactic, say, you must be kidding, and walk out the door. You've
Right.
got to kind of develop a thick skin that says we're all here doing our best, and not take it personally, because 3 hours later that person might be back, or you might run into them someplace and say, come on, give me a break. You know, you actually wanted it. You just, again, these are relationships you're going to live with for your entire life. And you need to remember that. I think the other thing, and Clay, you might want to touch on this. Again, in the good old days, everything went to auction. You would have multiple buyers and everybody was kind of giving you bids, and you held out for the best one. I remember the sort of halcyon days where I think it was Weinstein, they wouldn't even give anybody an answer before the second Monday of market, because they wanted everyone to have a chance to bid. That's not today. Today is very different. And it may take someone who's incredibly interested 5 days to go back to their marketing team back at home base and find out whether they can or cannot make an offer. People may leave market without making an offer. The whole thing is all sales are much harder. And you have to be very conscious of the pressures on the other side as well. I think, Clay, you've been coming to market for enough years to have seen it in its glory days to today. What
Yeah,
else?
I was like the tail end of the glory days. I never got to benefit from the glory days, but certainly the tail end of it. And the market has gone up and down. It's been a slow, challenging market the last,
Couple of
18
years,
months
yeah.
or so. But whoever this young woman is, I think you said her name was Diane or Diana, which is great. I don't know what company she's with, but prepare. If she was working for me, I would say to her those same things. Prepare. Schedule your meetings beforehand. Make sure you've watched every film you're selling, read every script you're pre-selling, watch the trailers already, know what you're selling, and have a goal for yourself, a target, and follow up. Do your follow up. And again, don't overdo it in the evening. That can, if you front load the nights, it's going to come back and kick you in the second half of the market.
See, it's funny. I was going to say start drinking now. No, I'm only kidding.
Well, that's fine. It'll be worn out.
I am glad.
Yeah.
I was going to actually ask Amanda to bring this up before we got off, but I'm really glad that Gene brought up, the idea of rejection and the idea of a no. I think it's very important for everybody that's here that is thinking about attending, with no matter what angle you're coming in at, that rejection is part of the business. I know all know that already. A no doesn't mean that it's not viable. It just might not be viable in that spot. You may have even read the room wrong. Maybe that company doesn't do that particular, is not a fit for that particular project or whatever. But it's very, very important that I always say you got to reframe rejection as a learning experience. Take everything that comes in as the potential to learn from it and to understand it. And don't be afraid to ask why it's a no, or why something isn't a fit, because you're ultimately there to learn. That's I think both Clay and Gene, I think you would agree that that's not unprofessional. That if you handle it right, don't sit there and go, why not? You got to be crazy. Like, it's the best thing ever. But to sit there and just say, for my own education and for my own edification moving forward, is there anything that, is there a reason or anything that you could help me with? I don't think that anybody would be offended by that.
You said read the room, RB. I think that's very important. I talked about a highlight, where I acquired a film from a filmmaker out of an audience during a panel. And on the other side, I was, and it still sticks in my memory, interrupted by an unknown first-time filmmaker who walked into my office uninvited and started pitching his film to me while I was in a meeting. And I kept asking him to leave, and he got upset that I was asking him to leave. And that's the opposite end of the spectrum. You certainly don't want to be that person,
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, we have done it. I wanted to just give you guys an opportunity just to give any parting words of advice to everybody here. It looks like we've got people who are AFM veterans that are in the room, and people who are just attending for the first time. So let's leave everybody with your one last piece of advice, or just parting words. Who wants to?
Come to the AFM.
Karaoke is a big thing at the market. So if you like the karaoke, have your song ready and look for where the karaoke parties are. Make sure you have your song. That's a fun tip. I don't know, Gene.
Just come.
Yeah.
In the best unit you can.
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
Embrace it. Embrace it. I wish I had gone as a film student. Can you believe my film school in Northridge, which is like 10 miles away, never told us that we need to go to the AFM? It's absurdity.
Yes, actually, we can believe that. Running
But
Stage
that's
32, we can believe that. Because they don't teach you the business. I'm not surprised.
Just
my one piece,
just come.
Yeah, my one piece of advice is just, everybody should be professional, but have fun and allow yourself
enjoy
to be, allow yourself to be human, and allow yourself, plan, but also plan to have fun, plan for the unexpected. Don't be so rigid. Allow yourself to go to even if you don't drink, go to the Fairmont bar afterward and hang around and talk to people, get yourself a seltzer or water or whatever you do. And, but allow yourself those moments, allow yourself to enjoy it.
Well, great advice for everybody. Well, everyone, as I'm wrapping up here, do me a favor, type in, whether you're on the lounge link or in the Q&A, type in your comments to this amazing panel today. I'll read them out loud to everybody so they can hear what you guys thought. You guys, thanks so much for taking the time today, for all of the work you put forward to do this navigation webinar. It really, I think, was extremely helpful for everybody. And then for everybody, just so you know, we have recorded this. So if you're a Stage 32 member, this will be up in your Stage 32 profile by tomorrow. You just go to your settings in the top right-hand corner and then to My Library. And you can watch this to prepare as much as you need for the AFM. And then if you're not a Stage 32 member yet, the AFM is going to be emailing this out via their mailing list as well. So be on the lookout for that recording there. And before we pop off, everybody's saying, you guys, you're the best. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everyone. Thanks to everyone for the info that you shared. I'm feeling better about the experience. Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to pitching my film at AFM this year. Great advice all around. Great info. 3 days now. 3-day batch now. Great panel and advice. Perfect. So you guys, thanks so much. Loved working with AFM for all of these years. And I also want to give a big shout out to Jennifer and Robin in the background, who have we for many, many years. Thank you for all that you do to the global filmmaking community. So, all right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see
Thank
you
you,
soon.
guys. Yeah, very soon.
We'll see you
Thank you,
there.
guys.
All right,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Thanks for
Bye now.
tuning in, and we'll
Thank
see
you,
you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.